Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Meet the Service Virtualization Expert session. My name is Pamela Deason. I'm the head of Application Development Product Marketing here at Broadcom. For those of you who may not be familiar with service virtualization, it allows users to create virtual services that actually emulate the behavior of real systems. With me is Carl Miller, a service virtualization product expert. Carl, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, everyone. As Pam mentioned, I'm the service virtualization expert, but more importantly is I'm actually a former customer. I was an enterprise architect with a worldwide financial services corporation, and needing to solve some problems, I evaluated, thought, and implemented service virtualization. I got my ROI back on our investment with my first two projects, and I actually still work with the team today. Back in my former company, they're clients of mine, and they're still using service virtualization to better improve their software and get good results.
So, Carl, the industry seems to be heading towards a focus on cloud computing. And I've been able to talk to a couple of organizations to understand their cloud migrations and their goals around improving scalability, automation, speed of delivery, and really just sort of overall cost management. Given the cloud direction and goals, where do you see service virtualization fitting in?
Well, Pam, service virtualization will play an important part uh, in the cloud, just as it does in on-premise data centers. For one, it can actually help with migration to the cloud for customers that are going from on-prem to the cloud. But also within the cloud, you're going to have a bunch of things that you have to deal with: services under development, partner interfaces, unavailable systems, legacy systems that are still on premise. All of those are good candidates for service virtualization. And those capabilities will really help customers as they move to the cloud and they make their applications more scalable and more available.
Awesome. Could you elaborate and share some specific examples on the ways that service virtualization can help with the actual cloud migration activities?
Sure. Let me see. I've got a diagram here. As you can see, we can go from on-premise to cloud. But at the same time, while you're building those cloud infrastructure out, your on-premise and your networking needs to be modified to handle the fact that those services are now somewhere else. So what you can do is you can virtualize those applications, put them up in your cloud system. They'll respond with the same exact response times that you have currently in your application on-prem, but you'll be able to see how networking affects all those things. And you may have to modify networking to make sure that you've got the optimum routes so that you can actually still meet the SLAs, say, for your partners. That it's helped a number of our customers when migrating from on-premise to cloud centers. They got their networking ironed out before they actually stood the applications totally up in the cloud. So that's one great way of doing it.
Thank you, Carl, for sharing the examples of how service virtualization can help teams with their cloud migration. Although you didn't specifically mention it, I'm assuming that all of the classic service virtualization use cases still apply, correct?
Well, Pam, let me share another diagram. Even though you've put all new systems up in the cloud, you're still going to have to reach back maybe to your on-premise data center, say for mainframe or for some legacy systems that are in your on-premise data center. But also, you're going to have to reach out to partners, external services, those kind of systems. And that's where service virtualization is really great, because I can just virtualize all those systems up in the cloud. And so you're not going to have to open firewalls to all those things for your development and test environments. You're able to have those virtualized up there, and you can have the data you need in the virtual service. You can also have the use cases that are very difficult to have with live systems, such as negative testing, negative use cases, empty sets, corrupted data, all those things that can happen. You can create virtual services with test cases. So, and even more importantly, you can do performance testing against those virtual services. Most partners are not going to allow you to performance test against their development or test systems that they've exposed to you. So the classic service virtualization use cases still apply in the cloud, possibly even more so.
Thanks, Carl. One advantage of the cloud is that it allows developers and testers to spin up, spin down environments as they need them. And I've had some customers ask me, does that mean that service virtualization is no longer relevant?
No, no. Service virtualization, you can scale up, scale down the same way. And remember, when you say scale up and scale down, you may be talking not just a single system. You may be talking, when you say instantiate a system, you may be talking 20 or 30 software instances or servers, as some people say, to create an application. That's actually going to be a lot of overhead, whereas you can bring up a set of virtual services on a single instance very, very quickly. I can bring up those virtual services for all these different systems and I can virtualize them very quickly, even though they may be unavailable, may not be in the cloud, and they may consist of actually multiple systems, databases, app servers, web servers. But I can bring up a virtual service that represents all of that infrastructure very quickly and with no cost, with very little cost compared to actually spinning those full systems up within the cloud.
All right, that's great. Thank you. I want to pivot for a minute. When I think about cloud migrations and development, I think about microservice architecture design. How does service virtualization help to support microservice architecture?
It actually supports microservice architecture a lot better than most people think. If I'm working on a component, but I've got a lot of dependencies in any kind of microservice architecture, and all of those microservices have their own SLAs. Now, my SLA, like in this example, 1100 milliseconds. Well, the thing is, you've got to take into account what are the SLAs and what of your dependent systems, what those you need to use to produce your result. And with service virtualization, I can virtualize all those dependencies with their SLAs, and I can test my component without having those systems. Maybe they haven't been fully developed yet, but I know what their SLAs are. And I can develop mine to make sure that I meet my SLA, even if they're at their max. And if they exceed their max, I know my component correctly logs it and notifies in the log that, hey, there's a component that's out of spec. And you've got virtual microservice architecture, you've got 1,000 services. It can be really hard to tell what's causing the slowness in the whole system. But with service virtualization, I can make sure that my developers all develop and they're meeting their SLAs.
Okay, thank you, Carl. That was all great information. And thank you for being our expert today. It is clear from what you shared that service virtualization can help customers in a number of areas, including support for microservices architectures, support for containers, elastic environments, and API-based interactions. You've been quite informative, and I look forward to hearing from you on our other service virtualization topics. Thank you.